And Dr. Jen Welter joins us from her home in LA, where she just happened to move as the pandemic kicked off. So, Jen, first of all, welcome to the show. How have the last 4 months been for you?
They've been very indoors, but thankfully creative. I like to say that I get bored easily. So if it's just me in my mind, you better watch out because I'm going to come up with something good.
Well, if anybody's followed your career, they know that you are a doer. And so, a lot of your speaking engagements, they kind of get postponed, they dry up. And what do? You come out with a children's book. It seems wholly
Actually,
characteristic of you, right?
yeah, yeah, a series. So we came up with Critter Fitter, using critters to help kids get fitter, both psychologically and physically. Dealing with some of these times in the pandemic, when a ladybug can't hug, is I think what we're all feeling right now, and it is that trauma of like, you can't hug people, and just what does it mean to deal with social distancing. And then Ladybug gets very creative and she comes up with a way to connect with her friends through the heart, even when they are far apart. And it gives kids kind of a way that they can deal with it, and parents a way that they can move them through it. And then the last book, which is the one most people have been hearing about and is doing really well right now, is Wearing a Mask Says I Love You. And in this was really an important book, I thought, to write, because first of all, the mask needed a hero story, right?
Mhm.
If you're used to masks traditionally, that would be a villain, right? It would be a bandit or a bank robber or something bad. And so for kids to all of a sudden have to wear it with no communication is weird, right? As we look at hopefully transitioning back into schools or back into sports or being a little bit more in contact, the kids need to be a proactive, positive part of the solution, as opposed to adults trying to, like, you've got to do this, into where we all know kids will then quickly run and do exactly the opposite when nobody's watching.
Well, communication has really become your specialty and your whole thing. So, but I want to talk about your hero story and sort of how you get there, and your incredible ability to take the word no and to transform it into action and to yes. And you heard no a lot when it came to football. What role did football play in your life as a young person?
As a girl, it was a place that I used to look out on the field and say, I want to be there. They looked like real life superheroes. And I just thought, man, like that's the coolest thing in the world. And I want to do it. And it was also the first place in the world that I learned that there were things that boys were allowed to do that girls weren't.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I wasn't raised that way, right? I have an army dad and an artist mom. So we always had creativity in our thought, in our approach, and just this, attitude that you can do anything, right? Like I remember catching my first blue marlin at the age of 14, right? And it wasn't, oh, this is a small fish, this is the girl fish. It was like, that's your fish, you're up. And the fish doesn't care if you're a boy or a girl, you either catch it or you don't, right? And that was just kind of the mentality. So to have there be this off limits place, it was always kind of weird to me. Went to college, found another sport that I absolutely fell in love with, and that was rugby. And so I got recruited to the under 23 national team in rugby, and then I was playing in a flag football league, before, after working on weekends, and I got recruited. And when I tried out for that team, that was it, right? Like that was to me where I needed to be in this world.
Was playing football with men at all in your sights? I mean, I know you loved it from a young age, but they called you, right?
They did call, and it wasn't a legit shot, and
Mhm.
it really wasn't. They wanted me to go through a day of training camp with their guys. They thought they would get some good pub, and I called them out on bad behavior, to be honest. Like I don't know necessarily if like people had told me no, as much as I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that, right? Like I think my career might be more like characterized by me like opening my mouth and then having to live up to what I said. Because when they said it, I was like, oh, so do you want me to like come in and maybe catch some passes, smile for the camera, get you guys some good pub. And they were like, yeah, we think it'd be awesome. And I was like, absolutely not. That's an insult to me as somebody who just won
Right.
my second gold medal. And if I was any one of your guys, I would absolutely hate it. If you want to do anything with me and your football team, either I do everything they do for all of training camp, step for step, hit for hit, or I do nothing at all. And at that time, that's what changed things, right? Because it caught the attention of the head coach, first of all, who was like, oh, okay, right? Like this girl might be about something. And it also really made my mind up. Like, I knew at that point that they were going to have to cut me or kill me, because what was not going to happen is that I was going to quit or I was going to let them use me.
Okay, so you went, I mean, you literally went all the way. What was it like trying to break in? Because it's one thing to try to break in physically, but there is also the barrier of gender, psychologically. What was it like, and how long until you felt like you were in? Or did you ever feel like you were in?
Honestly, players, the guys throughout my playing career when I played with them and coaching, have always been the ones who got me the most. And I lovingly say that, like, what they needed to know was two things. Number one, that I belonged, right? I was there for the right reasons. I was there for the football. It wasn't like I was going to get tackled and be like, oh, you can't hit me, I'm a girl. Nope, that's the job description, right? And then the other part was that we could get along. And for me, that was, there are going to be awkward moments, and we can laugh about them and get closer, or you can like look for a fight.
Somewhere in here along your unbelievable path, you managed to get a master's and a PhD. So how, I mean, I don't know how you managed anything time wise. So how did the coach?
That's what we do. Right? I mean, as a woman playing football, there was no end game, right? There was no, here's what we're going to do, or here's the path you could take. So what I imagined is that I could take my practical experience being one of the best players in the world and pair it with a PhD to be a unique value proposition within this space that was theory and practice. So I actually finished my PhD in 2013, which was when I played on the US national team for the second time. So I had a PhD before I ever stepped foot into men's pro football. And thank goodness, because it was probably the best prep I could have done. Right. So, that was being a female athlete is a full-time hustle, right? You got to have like 47 jobs. And we didn't get the ability to be able to play football full time. So it was work by day, play football by night, and go to school by very late night.
What do you think it's going to take to grow the numbers? Because it seems very clear to me that there should be more women coaching in the NFL.
I think a lot of that is developing a pipeline. And for me, a lot of that had to do with access and opportunity for younger girls, right? And for them to start earlier. So, I mean, that's why I founded Gridiron Girls. I noticed that nobody was doing on a national scale. Like, there were great programs here or there, but not on a cohesive national scale to be able to make impact of camps for girls. So we've done over 35 girls football camps in under 3 years, which is pretty insane, and would have been a lot more if we weren't, locked down for the summer months, right? And being able to give those girls permission to love football earlier is really important. And, we now have 4 states that have girls varsity flag football in high school. And the NAIA just announced that for the first time in 2021, they're going to have a varsity collegiate flag program. That changes everything, because now girls can advance their lives and their careers, right, and their education through the game of football, which means that they can invest the same kind of time and energy that boys can to change their lives. Because before that, for girls, it's been like me, where how could you make the game a part of your life and still be able to have a life? Whereas this is actually becoming an integral component to what your life could look like. which means you're going to have more brilliant minds that get to start at a much younger age than I did, right? I didn't get to play football until I was 22 years old, right? And so now you get to see a place where girls get to start earlier, which means you can be better and you can go to toe with those boys, right? You're going to see in 2022, the World Games just announced they're going to have men's and women's flag football for the first time, which means now you're also creating a viable pathway for the Olympics. And so that's what it takes from my perspective, from kind of the grassroots up. And then from the top down, you have to do what the NFL has actually, committed to doing within the last few years that started after I was in Arizona, was to develop that intentional pipeline to get more women into coaching. Currently, football suffers from sins of omission, right? It is the one sport that does not have parity at any level. So you don't have to tell girls that they don't belong. That's reinforced in everything that they don't see, right? And so that's where even my work with EA and Madden came up this year, where I became the first female head coach in Madden, right? And so now in a virtual space, right, you could see something that wasn't bound by the limits of quote unquote reality. And every girl who sees that game sees that she could have a place there, right? And every boy who plays that game sees that a coach is a coach. And it's not just these guys that they're used to seeing. I mean, I have friends of mine who played in the league and they're like, like one of them was coming to my camp at Super Bowl. And he was like, I asked my kid if he knew who you were, and he didn't even know anything about the Cardinals. He was like, yeah, Dad, of course, she's in Madden. And so we just have to look at all of the places in which we can create opportunities for representation and conversation, because when you see it, it changes everything in your mindset.
I could not agree more. I mean, honestly, this is why we're doing this show, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
if you're not putting it out there, nobody will know. So you do such a magnificent job of representing women and sports, and it's incredible what you do. I'm going to leave you with one final question that we ask all of our guests. What would your advice to a young Dr. Jen, well, I guess then just Jen Welter, be?
I have a couple of things. One that I say to all of my girls at a camp and when I work with them is let your game speak. Let your game speak louder than your gender, louder than your haters, louder than anybody who would object to what you're doing. Because when you're good, they'll want you. And the ones who don't, it's their loss. They don't owe you a spot, right? It's not enough to just show up and say, I'm here, I'm a girl, right? And you have to let me play. I don't want pity play, right? Who wants that? I want to give them whiplash from my ponytail. I want them to be like, dang, that's a baller. Wait, was that a girl? Right? Like it shouldn't be that they see a girl first. Now, with that being said, I am very proud to be a girl in the space. And it is not a choice. And it is not you're either this or that. And that's something I heard from a lot of girls is like, thank you for permission for, showing it differently, that I could be like an and, not an or, right? You can be pretty and you can be powerful and you can be strong and you can be smart. You get to write your own rules. Don't let somebody else box you in on their expectations of what it looks like in this world, right? Be so multidimensional that you catch the light of the most brilliant diamond out there, because that's what you are and that's what you deserve.
Well, you have some fantastic bullet points and rules in your book, Play Big. So I suggest to everybody out there that they read that. And Jen, thank you so much for this. You are a true inspiration.
It is so my pleasure. And, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but thank you for doing this show. I used to tell people when I played football that we were the best kept secret in sports. We just didn't want to be a secret anymore. And it's efforts like yours that are changing that, because people need to see the women that they can be, and the women that they want to be around. So thank you all so much for your efforts to level the playing field.
Well, thank you. You know what? It takes a village, and the village is growing, thankfully. So thanks again.
She was going to be a trendsetter. She was going to be a person who was going to do things that others had not done before. I think it paves the way for any girl now who wants to follow in her steps. It's visible. You can see it.
Oh, got a free defender coming straight in from the outside. I think that was Jen Welter. Big hit there by Jen Welter.
One of the hardest hitting football players I've ever seen.
Once she became an adult and kind of got involved with her adult life, she had the opportunity to get into the female football leagues that were coming along. She just kind of took off, and I knew she was going to be a hitter.
I've seen Jen with a bloody nose, bruises, and still would just wrap it up and just keep going. The fight in her is so huge, and I think that's what really carried her to the next level, is because like she already had that mentality, and she still has that mentality in everything that she does. Like she's just a fighter, and she will not be defeated.
She has a heart and a motor that doesn't stop. She's like a magnet to the football or the ball carrier, and just makes those tackles and make those plays when other players that I've coached for any gender would never do that.
To be the first female team representing the United States on an international stage was a dream come true for all of us. We were a group of the 45 best women in the United States. We had all been selected to represent our country in the first ever Women's World Championships. And we knew that this was history in the making.
The fact that we were representing the United States, going against these different countries, battling, and it meant so much to us. And we're still proud of everything that we did and everything that we accomplished, because we came together.
I wanted to approach it in the most positive way possible. I didn't want no negativity from any of the guys. My initial thought was go there, introduce myself, and let her know that if it ain't nobody on this team got your back, it's me. And, me being the captain of the team and me being who I was with the status I had in the league, I felt like it was the right thing to do. I really am happy that I did it, because I got a friend.
Jen's always been a trailblazer. So for me, I wasn't surprised in terms of her willingness and her desire to compete in that arena. And of course, when I saw that she had her mindset, I knew she was going to be successful, because that's the type of person she is. The
sense of pride that we had for her just being out there representing, saying, hey, if you're not gonna acknowledge us, we're gonna come to you. You know what I mean? Like, and just being that bold to step out there and play with the guys was just a really a sense of pride. And I told her this is going to help elevate us in the future.
I didn't start playing football to be here. I didn't even dream that it was possible. And I think the beauty of this is that though it's a dream I never could have had, now it's a dream other girls can grow up and have.
She's the first female coach, so I wanted to show her the ropes the right way. I also want to be tough on her also. What it's doing right now is laying the foundation. Young girls around the country now, they got something to look forward to. Now they can start dreaming on it. Now they can start planning ahead. Now they can start saying, hey, this is a reality. So if you're a young lady that's out there coaching, it's just gonna rise the competition up, and it's great for the game.
When I saw her don that Arizona Cardinals coaching uniform, I literally, it sounds cliche, but I got that warm feeling inside. I had tears welling up in my eyes, and I was just so proud of her, because I knew how difficult it was for her to achieve that level. And I knew also what it meant to women and girls around the world. It was a win for Jen, but it was really a win for all of us as female athletes.